So in the case of Nigeria, where 60% of the population lives on less than $1 a day, we want people to be aware of that. And, how do we participate and support answers in those areas of the world? So I think that the notion that we are brothers keepers, which is an integral part of our faith and the faith of, part of everybody's faiths, I believe, is very important. And it's not just, it starts maybe with your family, your extended family, your community, but it really has to include everybody on the face of the earth. That's why the earth is important. The earth is important because we all live here. So we got to take care of it a little better than we have been.
Absolutely. That resonates so strongly with me, because one of the reasons why I became a monk, and one of our teachings was that you became a monk and you were free from your basic family responsibilities so that you could see the whole world as your family.
Right.
And so that you could go and extend yourself even further.
Right, yeah.
And I think it's beautiful to see you do that. I mean, you have 6 children and
six grandchildren.
6 grandchildren.
6 and 6, right?
Yeah, 6 and 6. Yeah. What is the
and
legacy?
Several dogs. A couple of dogs as well, yeah.
Amazing. And horses.
And horses, yes.
Yeah. What is the legacy that you're hoping that they're going to carry forward to the future generations as the foundation grows?
Well, I think it's important for them to find themselves. They need to climb their own mountains. They need to explore themselves. They need to, fall down and pick themselves up. They need to learn deal with adversity and growth, both physically and personally. So our older children are all involved in our family foundation. And all actively involved in a variety of areas that we've talked about. Many we haven't, but they're involved in all of them. In addition to that, each one is starting their own foundation now, much smaller, but I want to make sure they know how to evaluate, make sure they know how to do their work, et cetera, because when you're giving, you're always getting more. I mean, it makes no difference whether it's physical work or financial, whatever it may be. The more we give, the more we get back. That's just kind of the way the math of the world works, the universe and our soul works. So the younger children have age-appropriate exposure to philanthropy. One's 22, 2 are 18. So they're younger, but they're getting exposed to it, mostly by doing. Not by writing checks, but by doing things and being connected in service in a variety of ways. And they're interested in all of our businesses as well. But, bringing them along very slowly and making sure they understand our values, that nothing is going to be given to them. Whatever they get has to be earned, and earned primarily through understanding these values, living these values, being a great role model, caring about community, caring about others, caring about service, caring about purpose. And, my hope, my desire as a parent is that, the children will grow when I'm long gone, and they will have their own set of values, the values hopefully they've learned from their mothers and their father, and they'll continue to do, the work that we're doing today and expand it. I mean, I don't have a written set of things. These are the 7 things we're going to do after I'm gone. So I'm not going to manage my foundation from my grave. I have enough faith in my children, and they'll make the right decisions based on the passions they know their father has, their own passions, which are critical. So they're really feeling they're doing the work that's important to them, and that they are doing work that's important in terms of the times that we're facing. So this well-being, wellness, well-being notion is at a critical mass, today in our country, if not the world, but certainly in our country. Whether it be the rate of suicides, which continue to climb at dramatic rates, which affect, the veteran population, a very young population, 10 to 14, and is double what it is on a national basis. So there are, those serious issues we're facing today. They'll have other maybe issues in the future, and so whatever they are, they should feel, the passion, the drive to want to make a difference in those areas, and put themselves and resources in place to help others, come to a better conclusion that whatever it may be.
Absolutely. And I've read that your favorite quote on a t-shirt is that there is no finish line. The Wi-Fi here is called finish line, finish line too. What does that mean to you? And also, what is the personal work you're doing right now in that regard? What are the internal things that you're working on at this stage in your life?
Well, I think, it came to me primarily from my running initially. I ran competitively, and Nike had this T-shirt, so there is no finish line. There was a guy running in the woods and couldn't find another one of them. I saw it someplace. Phil Knight was kind enough from Nike, was kind enough to get me one of the shirts. And, I think in virtually all areas of my life, I understand that, the next day isn't necessarily the end. There's always more to do, and et cetera, et cetera. And I think you have to have the ability to deal with adversity, grit, bounce back, and continue putting one step in front of the other. I got that from my long distance running. You probably got that from your monkhood, and maybe athletics as well, and other areas of your life. But the ability to understand that these problems that we're facing are not, you're not in and out in 5 or 10, 15 minutes. It's not a transaction. It's about relationships. All of our businesses are that way. It's never about the transaction. It's always about the relationship. So these causes, these issues that we have today in our country and worldwide are not going to go away tomorrow. So we have to have the wisdom to understand that. We also have to have the tenacity to say, we're going to make a dent and we're going to make a difference, just as my mother said in the bracelet I'm wearing. But we're going to make a difference, and every day we're going to continue to strive to move forward and to make a difference in that area. So I think, it's important. I think my oldest daughter would say, Dad, that, I love the expression, I love the feeling, but, which brings me back to myself a little bit. She said, but at some point, in your life, you need to, you need to be able to say that I'm kind of you need to be at peace with where you are. And that's where I think my version of wellness and well-being has changed, because it used to be running 7 days a week. If I didn't do that, that was my design around fitness and well-being. In many ways, physical fitness is important. But I think the whole notion of trying to dig deeper and really understand myself and my real purpose, and are we connecting the dots as well as we can, taking time for myself to every day to do meditation. I need to get back on that horse again. I did it for a number of months with, I got encouragement by Deepak Chopra, but I need to get back on and do it again because I saw the value of that, for a very long period of time. The work I do in terms of yoga and just the quietness, living in a quiet space and taking time to reflect. And it's one of the reasons I love Montana. We come out here and we walk, we hike, whatever it may be, horseback ride, and see this beautiful scenery, but it's quiet time. So the ability to be calm, the ability to reflect, the ability to build that into my life every day, where I'm not kind of a gerbil on the wheel, which is constantly running, the ability to get off that that cycle and pause, reflect, understand, build back my strength, my vision. I think that's been an important part of my own personal growth. That part of it didn't take place until, probably just maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I think, when I began to think more about, in a broader sense, a deeper sense, purpose and service to others. A good example of how we can connect a great business to doing the right things for the right reasons. We built a new stadium in Atlanta, Georgia, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, voted the best sports facility in the United States in the last 2 years and maybe in the world. But it's built in downtown Atlanta, which is magnificent today, but there's a part of downtown Atlanta, the west side of Atlanta, which is the birthplace of Dr. King, birthplace of many civil rights leaders, that has gone, downhill for the last 30 years. Unlike most other areas in Atlanta, when I moved there were 1 million people. Now there are over 7 million people living in Atlanta. And so we set out from the very beginning with saying, look, we're going to build the best stadium in the world that's designed around the people that we're serving, the guests that are in the stadium. There's no question we're going to be 100% successful at that. And I met with a lot of people from the religious community who said, I said, well, how does this create a situation where we can create a rising tide will float all boats, all these communities that are connected to our stadium, but have fallen backwards, slid backwards. And they said, it's not about buildings, it's about, human capital. So we spent 3 years, actually, because one of our key components of our values is to listen, to listen and respond, whether it be people we're serving in our businesses or people that we're serving through the foundation. So we walked the streets of the West Side, met with neighborhood groups, and, basically didn't say very much. We just said, look, we're going to build this magnificent stadium. We want it to be a positive force in your lives. We're done talking. Now you tell us, what is it that's important to you? What's important to your community? What's important to your family, et cetera, et cetera. And, it wasn't a list of 100 things. It was a list of 4, 5, 6 things that were really critical to them. And so we made it clear from the very beginning that, the stadium project will take us 7 years from the design, the thinking about the structure, et cetera, to building it. But this is going to be a 20, 30-year process. That's where there is no finish line kind of fits in as well. And so we spent a great deal of time listening and then responding. And one good example is a program called What West Side Works. One of the things that everybody said in the community, we need jobs. We don't have jobs, and that affects us in a whole variety of ways. So we trained. We had over half the people living in those zip codes applied for this program called West Side Works. We've taken in probably close to 1,000 have been trained, and the training really is to give them the life skills and the work skills so they can be successful, not just on one project. So whether it be in construction or food or baking or nursing or IT, whatever it may be, whatever their interest was, we did all that training, and then we put them to work. So a lot of these training programs where they fall down is that they train them, but they don't make the connection to it. They need a job. I really need a job. So our notion was every single person who graduated this program was going to actually have a paying job. Wow. And what have you. So, Amazing. When whoever it may be went back in their house, and it was one individual, I remember his name was Lloyd. It was a great story about he was a tattoo artist, and he had 3 children, single father, and because of the nature of what he was doing, he wouldn't be home in the evening. So his kids would go to school, come home. He was not home. He was out, doing his trade. And so he went through this, became part of the construction crew that helped build the stadium, and now was working with construction in a variety of other areas. But he had a regular job, came to work at 8 in the morning, worked till 4, 3, 5 in the afternoon, whatever it may be. Then he was home in the evening. So he was making money. He was walking in the door. His chest was, out. His shoulders were back. Smile on his face. His kids said, it's not just financially, but his ability, self-confidence, and his ability to say, I can make a difference not only in my life but now in their lives. That story was told probably 1,000 times over on the West Side. And that's, we understand it's a longer journey. We understand human capital and human capacity takes time to nurture and to help grow. But we're equally committed to that. And that's true with all this community work that we do. We try to identify not what we see, as the needs, is really what the needs are by the people that are living these communities. Yes. Sometimes foundations make a mistake and they operate, say, from Atlanta, and they throw Scud missiles here, there, and elsewhere. Good works, I should say, here, there, and elsewhere. But they don't really understand the pulse on the ground. What's actually happening? What does it mean to live that way? And so we spent a lot of time, most of our time, in starting our evaluation work by understanding what is it that the people that we're serving, what is it that they're saying, not what we're saying, what are they saying, where do they feel that they need help and support. And obviously we're trying to, teach people to fish versus, giving them fish. And so that's one example of a beautiful story that found business model that was fabulously successful, but a community involvement that's been incredibly successful as well. So we make emphasis there on education, on health, on their financial services to understand what loans mean, how do you pay them off, how do you do a variety of things, financial planning, et cetera. So that's just one example, but there are many, many other examples of that. But and it's this connection of between those kind of things give our associates a tremendous sense of fulfillment and purpose in their own lives, because they see, I'm part of an organization. It's not just about how many medals, how many awards, how many wins, how many this, whatever it may be. It's about how do we win the Super Bowl of life every year, which I tell our football players. Said, you have 11 guys on the other side of the line. You may not win the Super Bowl every year or the MLS Cup every year, but we can win the Super Bowl of life every year, because there's nobody on the other side of the line, defending us from doing that. So we see the opportunities, our players, coaches, staff, organization, and they have a tremendous sense of pride in that. Yes. The whole issue of social justice in the NFL today, which has been incredibly important. We've been very heavily engaged at both at the league level, but at the club level. So at the club level, we have 12, 15 players who we spent 3 months with them, listening to them, telling us, look, this is what's going on in my communities. This is what I had to live with as a child. This is what I had to overcome. This is what my parents still live with, my siblings, whatever it may be. And so then we responded, in terms of our engagement with them. So it's not like us doing for them, it's us doing alongside them, connected to them, shoulder to shoulder, where they feel like, we're in this together. And that's a beautiful thing to happen. And I think, we want our associates to feel that sense of pride, feel that sense of this organization really has a heart and a soul and a purpose to it. And the beauty is you do all these wonderful things behaviorally, and you're going to produce the right financial results. I mean, it's important to do that because, in my case, because we want to continue to fund things that we see opportunities for. So.
It's phenomenal. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, thank you, Jay, for asking, and thank you for listening.
No, of course, absolutely.
I wish I could get more to the point as you do so beautifully. A lot of your messages,
great. No, but it's powerful work. You're doing the work. I think detail is great when people are able to see how deep the intention is.
Right.
In the sense that I feel like when you're explaining something, you're not just explaining what you're doing, you're explaining why you're doing it and how you're doing it. Right. It's going to take longer.
So I mean, the what is the easiest part. It's the why. I mean, that's what's sustainable in the heart and the spirit and the soul, is that when we understand it, our foundation, our associates, some of our businesses understand why we're doing the things we're doing, it makes a difference in their lives as well. And 100%. And they feel like because this whole estate's being recycled back, they're working not only to have purpose in terms of who we're serving, but they're working in terms of having purpose in building the foundation, which will be, recycled in a positive way. So
absolutely,
it's a beautiful circle that's very, very tight, and there are really no breaks in it.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing to be part of.
Amazing. Arthur, you've been incredible. We end every interview with what we call the final 5 quick fire, rapid fire round. So you can only answer the questions with one word or maximum one sentence.
I need a glass of water for that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so what I've done is we've created, considering your name is Arthur Blank, we've done this final 5 as fill in the blanks. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to ask you. I can drop that for you. So I'm going to ask you to fill in the blank at the end of the sentence.
The hardest thing for me is the one word, as you know now.
Yes.
I tend to give long answers.
That's fine. So that's why this section is for that.
Yeah.
So the first question is, the best advice I've ever received is blank. So what would it be? Finish the sentence. The best advice I've ever
received. Be true to my values.
Okay, wonderful. The second question is, the worst advice I've ever received is blank.
I would say, focus, the focus on, productivity, the focus on financial metrics, as being the goal versus, all the other things in terms of behavior and changing people's lives in a positive way and seeing the joy in that, that's been great.
Great answer. Okay, question number 3. 3 things I'm grateful for are blank.
Well, I have to start with my family, 6 great children, 6 great grandchildren, and great, I've been married multiple times, unfortunately, but I have a great relationship with all of my ex-wives, and they're all wonderful people. And so I'd say my family and my relationships, I think my ability as a result of our business success to try to have an opportunity to expand, what service means of others, create that with our associates and who we're serving in all of our different businesses.
Yeah. Do this one blank thing and it will change your life. What would you put into that blank? What would that one thing be?
Find your passion. Because I think when somebody, can I add on another word or two?
Yeah, please. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I'm going to, absolutely. Please.
Because I think when people find their passion and their purpose, financially they're going to do as well, if not better than they ever would have done doing anything else. And, their years here which are, limited, they're measured, if you will, are going to be much more enriched because they're going to feel like what I'm doing, what I'm really doing has purpose for me and purpose for others that I'm trying to serve. And so I think finding purpose, which is not always easy. I mean, sometimes people wander around a bit. You did. You described your journey, and myself as well. I had my own journeys there. But when you find it, you need to stop and honor it, and then to move with it. And all good things come as a result of that. In terms of the quality of life.
Absolutely. And the fifth and final question is the one thing that you're hoping this beautiful 4 or 5 days we'd had here in Montana will result in?
Well, I think there are two things, if I expand the question a little bit. One is that, the great connections that you have made with so many other people here, and they've made with you and with each other, I think so. I think those physical connections, emotional, it's one thing to know somebody, but when you spend 4 days together in this setting, you get a deeper understanding of people's perspectives and their views, and how can we work together. They're 2 and 2 equals 8 and 10 instead of just 4 or 5 for myself. So I think that has been very invaluable. The other thing is that I think we'll be able to focus for our foundation and draw in other foundations and other institutions that care about these things. Some really good ideas to help support the expansion of the notion of well-being and wellness, and give exposure to that to other populations that don't necessarily have that or see that, and to not have this widen this gap that we have in America today is just too extreme in my viewpoint. And I think we need to do more of this and bring people together, not necessarily economically as equals, because that's not reality in a capitalistic world. But, to bring people together in terms of their well-being and their happiness and their ability to feel fulfilled in life. So we want to, get in the canoe and paddle along with everybody else, and paddle as hard as everybody else, and know we can make a difference, and try to earn, the respect and the opportunity. It's an honor really having everybody here. From my standpoint, it's an overwhelming honor to have not just the intelligence in the room, but the commitment and the sense of purpose and the sense of trying to reach out and make a difference in the world is incredible to me. So anything we can do, supporting the collaborations, supporting the partnerships, new ideas, expanding ideas, scaling up ventures, et cetera, which is much of what I know your concern is going forward. How do I impact more people, which is great. We want to be part of that. So it's been an honor for me, truly an honor for me to be here this week and to just be part of this. It's an experience of my lifetime I'll never forget. I've gotten a great deal out of it, much more than, I've gotten much more out of it than we put into it. And that's the beauty of when you do things with service and purpose, you really do get more out of it than what you give.
Yeah, well, I want to thank you on behalf of me and all the other participants, because I think you've allowed us to form such deep, amazing relationships. Yeah. There's many people in this room that I would have loved to connect with or meet. And you're so right that when you go away with people for 3-4 days, you... go so much deeper, so much quicker than you would if you met at a conference or a one-day event or whatever it may be. So I just want to say thank you
You're welcome.
from me. Thank you for all your kindness. Thank you for your encouragement.
Thank you.
You've given me so many wonderful votes of confidence this week and just sharing so much support and encouragement for the work I do, which has given me so much conviction. And I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you. Well, the work that you do is incredible, and it really has, tremendous purpose to it, and a high degree of success. So I want to do everything we can do to help support you and support the people you're touching and trying to help with their life journeys. So I think this is a great place to do it, because when you spend time outdoors, you realize you're kind of dwarfed by nature and by things that have been here for thousands and thousands of years. And also, everybody puts on their pants the same way. It's a level playing field. Nobody's wearing suits. Nobody's wearing ties. Everybody's just, being themselves, and they're opening themselves up. And in this kind of environment, it's easier to do that. Yes. And so that's the reason we want to continue to do this work here.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Arthur. Thank you, everyone who's been watching or listening back at home or wherever you've been. Make sure you go and follow the Blank Foundation on Instagram and on Twitter and on the social media platforms as well if you want to find out. About the great work not only we've been doing, but all the other incredible work that the Arthur M. Blank Family Foundation does. Please check out this podcast, share it with other people that you feel are going to benefit from this incredible presence around service, incredible presence around giving and doing through our work. And for anyone who's aspiring to be an entrepreneur out there, what better values than the ones that have been talked about in this show? Make sure you share those on Instagram so that I can share them as well. I'm always looking through what you're learning so that helps me ask better questions and serve you better. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Arthur, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jay.
So grateful.